Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Kavya. Today I am going to be showing you guys how I painted an arch accent wall in our home. This is actually going to be a feature in my home office studio space that I'm currently working on, and that makeover video will be up in full once the entire space is finished, which is going to take a little while, but in the meantime I wanted to share a few videos here and there focusing on some of the individual DIYs I'm making for this space. That way I can go into a little more depth and detail on the how-to process behind some of these elements, starting today with this painted arch feature wall. Now I've been seeing these beautiful painted arches all over Pinterest for quite a while now, and I think they look really fun, a little bit quirky, and I think it's going to be a nice way to bring a pop of color and some warmth to this space. So here is a complete breakdown of exactly how I created this feature wall. Step one was to figure out where I wanted the arch to be positioned on the wall and also determine how wide I wanted the arch to be. This is going to depend on how you're styling it. For this room, I knew I wanted my desk to sit up against the arch to help ground it and create a nice focal point. Because my desk was currently dismantled, I decided to make an outline of it in its exact dimensions on the floor using some masking tape. This just helped me visualize where I wanted it placed along the wall, and it also helped me determine the width of the arch. I ended up making the arch a couple of inches wider than my desk on either side. Step two was to mark out the sides of the arch. Now you can eyeball this or use a ruler, but the easiest and most accurate way to make sure the sides of your arch are straight is to use a spirit level. I used a pencil to make a faint outline of the sides of the arch, and then I taped along that outline with painter's tape. I made sure to place the tape just a fraction away from that pencil outline, so that way when I painted the arch, I could try to paint over and cover up as much of the pencil markings as possible. I taped off the base to protect my skirting boards and also the power outlet, and then it was time to tackle that top curved section of the arch. I started by finding the halfway point between the two sides of the arch. I took a piece of string, taped one end of the string to that halfway mark, and then measured and cut the other end of the string just where it met the side of the arch. This piece of string was more of a draft, and I used it to get a rough idea of where I wanted the curve of the arch to start and finish. I checked that I was happy with how high up the curve was going to reach, moving the midpoint up and down the wall as needed. I also made sure that the string reached both sides of the arch evenly. Once I was 100% happy, I marked out the final halfway point on the wall, took a small nail and hammered it in. This time I took another fresh piece of string, tied one end firmly around the nail in the middle. To the other end, I attached a pencil, adjusting it along the piece of string as needed so that the tip of the pencil just met the side of the arch. You can see that this creates a sort of protractor, and you can now take your pencil and move it up and around your wall to draw a nice even curve. I would definitely recommend being patient and taking your time with this step, as the end result will look much nicer for it. After I'd drawn out the curve, I removed the nail, used some wall putty to fill up the small hole, let it dry, and gave that area a light sand to prep the wall for painting. If you have a steady hand, you can absolutely freehand painting the curved section of the arch. I tried and really didn't like how it looked, so I ended up using the same 6mm thin masking tape that I used in my last video where I created my DIY terracotta pots to tape off the arch. I love this tape. It always creates the most perfect curved lines with any paint project, and even though it's not as thick as painter's tape, if you go nice and slow, it really does create a perfect guide. When I'm painting, I usually like to work in small sections by cutting in with a brush along the edges of the tape first, and then going in with a roller to smooth out those streaks. I made sure to work super slowly around the edges and filled in the entire arch with paint. Now, a little tip I've learned for anyone following along, other than investing in good quality painter's tape for this project, there is a little trick to getting super smooth lines and not having your paint bleed through the tape. I didn't know about it until after I filmed this video, but I thought I'd share for anyone interested. Before you go in with your accent color, what you can actually do is paint along the edges of your tape using the same paint color that is on the outer wall surrounding your arch if you have it on hand. That way, that paint will bleed through any gaps in the tape first, closing them up, and it won't matter because it's the same color as that outer wall. You can let that dry and then go in with your accent color for a neater finish. I allowed 2 hours for that first coat of paint to dry and then repeated the process again for the second coat. Once that second coat was done, it was time for the fun part, peeling the tape to reveal the end result. I'll link the painter's tape that I used in the description. I think it did a pretty good job and I ended up with smooth lines in most places. There were a few areas here and there where the lines were slightly bubbly, but honestly, you can't tell unless you're right up against the wall. And overall, I think the end result looked fantastic. I also love this color. It took me a long time to figure out what accent color I was going to use for this arch. This was called New Penny in the Dulux paint range. It's a beautiful earthy brown with this clay terracotta color coming through, and I think it's going to tie in really nicely with the vision that I had for this space. Alright, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I have some really fun ideas in terms of how I want to style this arch, but it's not quite finished yet, so I'm going to be saving that for another video. I do have a few other plans for this space. I've got a few thrift flips that I want to do, a really exciting IKEA furniture hack that I think you guys are going to love, as well as some home office, DIY, craft room organization videos. I know a lot of you really enjoyed my pantry organization video that I shared quite a while back, so it's going to be something along those lines. So if all of that sounds like something you would enjoy and you haven't already, be sure you're subscribed and also have your bell notifications turned on to keep in the loop and see the evolution of this space as we go along. Alright, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.